Today, we're going to be talking about a molecule called forskolin, how it influences levels of another molecule called cyclic AMP, and investigate how changing these levels may offer protective benefits or not.
From the wonders of DNA, the cells that divide, we'll break it down for you. Simplify and magnify, exploring the molecules, the building blocks inside. Every episode's a journey, join us for the ride. Welcome to the Sheekey Science Show, where we break it down and let the curiosity flow. From the lab to your screen, come on, let's go. Unlocking the science, together we will grow.
So forskolin, I first learned about this compound during my undergrad biochemistry lectures. Besides understanding it for my exams, I hadn't really dedicated much time to thinking about it. That was until now, because forskolin is actually a very interesting molecule that has a variety of impacts within the cell. And it's also widely available. So what actually is it? How does it work? And what is the verdict for its therapeutic applicability? So to begin with some biochemistry, forskolin can be extracted from the roots of this plant, Coleus forskoli. And in terms of its molecular action, forskolin activates this protein called adenylate cyclase, a protein found at the membrane of cells, and it converts ATP into a cyclic form known as cyclic AMP. While some call it CAMP, you should really call it cyclic AMP, as this is the cyclic version of adenylate monophosphate. And while you might not care much for cyclic AMP, our cells do, as cyclic AMP is a secondary messenger important for intracellular communication to regulate cellular offense. Or the fancy biochemistry textbook definition, a secondary messenger is a small molecule that is formed or released into the cytosol in response to an extracellular signal and helps to relay the signal to the interior of the cell. And cyclic AMP was the first secondary messenger actually identified. Fun fact. But this is when it starts to get a little bit complicated, because cyclic AMP can have many different impacts in the cell. But one of the major targets that cyclic AMP is known to activate is a protein called protein kinase A, which is a kinase protein, so it basically adds phosphate to other proteins. And one of the proteins that protein kinase A can activate is a protein known as hormone-sensitive lipase. This lipase breaks down fat in fat cells, and therefore forskolin, by activating adenylate cyclase, increasing cyclic AMP levels, can increase the activity of this lipase, and indeed many studies have shown in vitro studies that this works. So does that mean that forskolin can be used for fat loss? Well, one study showed that glucose metabolism was regulated and fat cell diameter was reduced in a high-fat diet-fed mouse after the administration of forskolin. And there has been some human studies that have shown forskolin could be effective. For example, here, forskolin showed favourable changes in body composition by significantly decreasing body fat percentage and fat mass in 15 male subjects. But frankly, there's not enough yet to really be able to convincingly say this. And I think partly that's due to the fact that, as I mentioned, forskolin, by increasing cyclic AMP, can have a variety of impacts if it's taken throughout the body. While in fat cells it might increase lipase activity, in the cardiovascular system, the administration of forskolin, by increasing cyclic AMP, can dilate the blood vessels, lowering blood pressure. In a similar way, forskolin has been shown to reduce intraocular pressure in glaucoma. And more recent work has shown that forskolin may also have neuroprotective properties, as demonstrated in work showing that it could reduce amyloid beta peptides in the brain of Alzheimer's disease. So ultimately, a lot of this work does look quite promising, but none of it's really been translated to human clinical studies yet. So in terms of dosing and timing, it's very much uncertain. Forskolin works by increasing cyclic AMP. So how do cyclic AMP levels change with age? Now, I don't think I fully found the answer to this. If anyone else has, let me know. But I did find this interesting study that showed a link between cyclic AMP levels and the regulation of lifespan, Now, in this study, they fed fruit flies with compounds that could increase cyclic AMP levels, and it showed that it actually extended the lifespan of the flies. So that was interesting. And just to add even more biochemistry into this, so far we've looked at how forskolin, through activating adenylate cyclase, can increase cyclic AMP, as more of it is actually made within the cell. But this is not the only mechanism by which you can increase cyclic AMP. An alternative way is to prevent the breakdown of cyclic AMP. And interestingly, this can be done by caffeine, because caffeine inhibits phosphodiesterases that break down cyclic AMP. But obviously caffeine also has other effects, such as inhibiting adenosine receptors, which is how it keeps us alert. So cyclic AMP really is a very versatile cellular signaling molecule. In fact, it even triggers individual slime mold cells to start aggregating to form some funky slugs. So how can we conclude from this data? Well, ultimately to me, it seems that different cell types and the health of that cell will impact how it responds to the presence of forskolin. And so it ultimately comes down to how can you target the compound to disease cells where increased cyclic AMP could be beneficial. But to leave on a somewhat positive note, it is interesting to see that forskolin is now being tested in the interventions testing program, which is this huge program that with heterogeneous mice look to see if compounds can extend lifespan. And this started in 2021, so hopefully soon we'll have some data about it. So what I like about forskolin is that at least we know its molecular target, adenylate cyclase, or at least we think that's the only one at the moment. But for now, in terms of its health applications, I have to say it's complicated. And on that pun, thank you for listening.